The morning of my divorce hearing, my husband walked into the courtroom smiling like he'd already won. He leaned over and whispered, "You'll leave here with nothing." His girlfriend laughed loud enough for the whole room to hear. "She doesn't deserve a single dime." I didn't argue. I didn't even look at them. I just quietly handed my attorney a sealed letter and asked him to give it to the judge when the time was right. 5 minutes later, the judge opened it, read 2 paragraphs, looked up, and said 4 words that changed everything. "Well, this changes things. My name is Rachel Carter. I'm 38. The last thing my husband whispered to me before the hearing began was, "You'll leave here with nothing." He said it like the outcome was already decided. 5 years earlier, that would have broken me. That morning, it barely made me blink, because I already knew something he didn't. To understand why, you have to go back 15 years. I met Ethan when we were both 23. He had big dreams and almost no money. I had a steady accounting job, a tiny apartment, and enough optimism for both of us. He wanted to start his own software company. Everyone told him it was too risky. I didn't. I believed in him. When we got married 2 years later, we agreed on one plan. I'd provide stability while he built the business, and once it succeeded, we'd enjoy it together. That was the dream anyway. The first 3 years were hard. Really hard. Some months the company made almost nothing. There were nights Ethan came home convinced he should quit. I'd sit with him at our tiny kitchen table, pour him another cup of coffee, and remind him why he'd started. "We're going to get through this," I'd tell him. And somehow, we always did. I worked overtime almost every week. My paycheck covered the mortgage, groceries, utilities, health insurance, even the company's early expenses when investors backed out. I postponed grad school, delayed buying a new car, skipped vacations. Every sacrifice felt worth it because I believed we were building something together. Whenever Ethan thanked me, he'd say the same thing. "One day, all of this will be ours." I believed every word. Then everything changed. In the company's 7th year, one of Ethan's products unexpectedly took off. Within 18 months, his business expanded across 3 states, interviews, awards, magazine covers, conferences. Suddenly, everyone wanted to know Ethan Carter. At first, I was proud. Watching someone you love hit their dream is beautiful, until success started changing him. He stopped asking about my day. Dinners turned into one-sided updates about investors and revenue. He hired assistants for work but somehow still expected me to run the whole house. When I brought up finally going back to grad school, he barely looked up from his phone. "Why?" "What do you mean, why?" "I've always wanted this." He shrugged. "Seems unnecessary now." Bit by bit, the partnership we'd built disappeared. Business trips got more frequent. Late meetings became routine. Weekend plans kept getting canceled. Every time I raised a concern, it was the same response. "You're overthinking." "It's just work." I wanted to believe him, until one evening while organizing paperwork for our accountant, I found hotel reservations that didn't match anything on his calendar. I didn't accuse him. Not yet. I just started paying attention. Calls he took outside. Messages deleted the second they came in. New passwords on devices that never used to need them. Then one afternoon, I overheard him on the phone. He didn't know I could hear. "I'll handle the divorce soon. I just need everything positioned first." My whole world went quiet. Not because he wanted a divorce, because he'd apparently been planning one for a while and never said a word to me. That night, I didn't cry. I sat alone in the living room until sunrise. Then I made a decision. If the marriage was already over in his mind, I wasn't going to beg him to stay. The next morning I hired a divorce attorney, Linda Morales. After going through everything I brought her, she leaned back. Rachel, how much documentation do you have? I opened a folder nearly 3 inches thick. Bank statements, tax returns, emails, loan records, receipts going back over a decade. She looked genuinely impressed. You kept all of this? I've always believed paperwork tells the truth. Over the following weeks, Ethan hired one of the most expensive legal teams in the city. Mutual friends started calling me. Apparently, he'd been telling everyone exactly how the divorce would go. He says you'll never touch a penny of the company. He keeps saying he built everything alone. I just thanked people for letting me know. I never argued, never defended myself. The truth didn't need me to shout. The morning of the hearing, Linda straightened the files on our table. Ready? I looked at the courtroom doors. I'm done fighting. I'm ready for the truth. Ethan walked in wearing a tailored suit, his attorney behind him, and sitting confidently in the gallery, the woman from the hotel reservations. She caught my eye and smiled. Ethan leaned toward me. You should have settled when I offered. I said nothing. The doors opened. Everyone stood. As the judge came in, I reached into my briefcase, pulled out one sealed envelope, and quietly handed it to Linda. Please, I whispered, give this to the judge when the time is right. The courtroom went silent. Ethan leaned back, relaxed, like the outcome was already decided. Why wouldn't he? He believed the company and everything we'd built together belonged only to him. His attorney stood first. Your Honor, Mr. Carter built his business through his own vision and hard work. While Mrs. Carter was certainly his spouse, she made no meaningful contribution to the company. We asked the court to recognize it as his separate achievement. Ethan nodded, glanced at me, and gave that same smile he'd worn the morning he promised we'd build our future together. Only now, it had no warmth left in it. The judge turned to Linda. Mrs. Carter's response? Linda stood calmly. We'll address that, Your Honor. She didn't argue. She didn't accuse anyone. She just walked to the clerk's desk and handed over my sealed envelope. This was prepared by my client. What is it? A chronological summary of documented financial support, already included in discovery. The judge nodded and opened it. The room watched in silence. Ethan crossed his arms. His girlfriend glanced at me, amused. Neither looked worried. The judge read the first page, then the second. He stopped, went back, read a paragraph again. Finally, he looked up. Mrs. Carter, you put this together yourself? I did. I appreciate a clear timeline. He went back to the letter. No emotion in it, no accusations, just dates. March 2011, Rachel withdrew $28,000 from personal savings to cover payroll after investor funding was delayed. Documents attached. September 2012, Rachel refinanced her vehicle to reduce expenses, freeing up income for the business. Bank statements attached. February 2013, Rachel postponed graduate school to keep working full-time while Ethan focused entirely on growing the company. Then copies of emails. One caught the judge's attention, from Ethan. I couldn't have kept the company alive without you. Someday everything we build will belong to both of us. Another, thank you for covering the mortgage again. This won't be forgotten. Another investor meeting is possible because you're holding everything else together. I didn't look at Ethan. I didn't need to. The confidence beside me was already starting to fade. The judge pulled the financial exhibits both sides had submitted, comparing dates, bank records, loan paperwork, corporate filings. Every few minutes, another handwritten note. Then he looked straight at Ethan. Mr. Carter, you testified the business was entirely self-funded after year one. Correct? That's correct. The judge lifted a document. Then explain this transfer. His attorney leaned in. What transfer? A $28,000 deposit into the business account, matching a withdrawal from Mrs. Carter's savings the same day. Nobody spoke. The judge flipped another page. You also said household expenses were independently managed. Yet these records show Mrs. Carter paid the mortgage, insurance, utilities, and health care for nearly 4 straight years while the business ran at a loss. Ethan shifted in his seat. His attorney whispered something to him. Neither of them looked confident anymore. There's also correspondence, the judge continued, holding up another email, specifically thanking her for keeping the company alive. The room was so quiet you could hear the pages turn. Mr. Carter, were these statements accurate when you made them? Aye. His attorney cut in. Your Honor, we'd like a brief recess. The judge raised a hand. In a moment, he reviewed my timeline once more, set it down, and looked at me. Mrs. Carter. Thank you. The room stayed silent. He tapped the pages with his pen. This isn't an emotional argument. It's a factual one. Then, to both attorneys, based on today's testimony and supporting documents, the court is ordering a full financial review before any asset division is finalized. Ethan's smile was gone. His girlfriend lowered her eyes to the floor. The judge gathered his papers and added, when facts are presented this clearly, they deserve to be examined just as carefully. We reconvened 3 weeks later. In that time, the court-appointed financial team went through everything: bank statements, tax returns, corporate records, loan agreements, email archives. I didn't spend those weeks celebrating. There was nothing to celebrate. A marriage had ended, and no amount of paperwork could undo that. When I walked back into the courtroom, Ethan looked different. Same tailored suit, but the certainty behind his eyes was gone. The judge read the final report. The financial review confirms that Mrs. Carter made substantial, documented financial contributions during the company's formative years. He turned a page. It also confirms that several earlier statements about the source of funding and household responsibilities were incomplete. Nobody said a word. Accordingly, the marital assets will be divided based on the verified financial record and applicable law. That was it. No speeches, no shouting. Just the truth. The hearing wrapped up in under 30 minutes. People started filing out. Ethan stayed seated. His attorney gathered his files and stepped out. Even the woman who'd sat smiling behind him at the first hearing slipped away without a word. For the first time in years, it was just the two of us. He looked across the room. Rachel, I was wrong. His voice was quieter than I'd ever heard it. I kept telling myself that once the company took off, everything before that didn't matter anymore. He looked at his hands. But it did. I didn't answer right away. I convinced myself I built it all alone, he went on, because that was easier than admitting how much I depended on you. He finally met my eyes. I'm sorry. There was no anger left in me. Only acceptance. I didn't spend 15 years helping you because I wanted credit. I know. I helped because I loved you. Another silence. I never wanted this to become a battle, I said. Neither did I, he admitted. I just wanted the truth. He closed his eyes for a moment. You deserved that. I wished him well, not because he'd earned forgiveness that morning, but because holding on to bitterness would only keep me tied to a life that was already over. A month later, the settlement was finalized. Fair. Not extravagant, not symbolic, just fair. For the first time in years, I wasn't building someone else's future. I was building my own. Instead of a bigger house or an expensive trip, I invested in something I'd put off for almost 15 years. My own consulting firm, helping small family-owned businesses organize their finances and grow the right way. Ironically, the dream I'd delayed to help Ethan build his company became the foundation of my next chapter. My first client reminded me of us, years ago, young, hopeful, trying to build something meaningful. This time, I wasn't standing behind someone else's dream. I was standing inside my own. People sometimes ask if I felt victorious after the divorce. The truth surprises them. I never wanted revenge. Revenge keeps you looking backward. What I wanted was acknowledgement. Not applause. Not sympathy. Just recognition that quiet sacrifices matter, even the ones made behind closed doors. The courtroom gave me that. But something more important happened long before the judge ever read my letter. I stopped measuring my worth by whether someone else recognized what I'd done. For years, I believed my value depended on his appreciation. I was wrong. My value had been there all along. The judge didn't create it. The documents didn't create it. The settlement didn't create it. They just revealed what had always been true. As I locked the door to my new office on my first day in business, I smiled, because the greatest thing I walked away with wasn't part of any settlement. It was the confidence of knowing the strongest foundation I'd ever build was the one beneath my own feet.